All right, I'm going to take you through the reflection part of the reflection and refraction lab. And I have my directions here kind of off screen. I'll be doing the activity right here on this paper. So follow along and answer the questions as they appear. So the first thing that I need to do is to make a line where I'm going to place my mirror. So I'm actually going to use my protractor. Any kind of straight edge will work. And I'm going to make a line right across the middle of my paper. That's just so I have a place to put my mirror and I know that it's straight. So the next thing I'm going to do, I need this cardboard underneath. I'm going to take my mirror and I'm going to put it right exactly against that line. Alright, now I'm going to place some pins. The first pin is called my mirror pin, and it's going to go right in the center, right flush up against the edge of the mirror. I'm going to take a second pin called my object pin, and I'm going to come about 5 centimeters forward and about 5 centimeters to the right of that mirror pin. I'm going to put another one here. Now is the part where it starts to get just a little bit tricky. So I don't know if you can see me on camera. I'm going to get down. I'm down on eye level with this right now. I'm looking directly into the mirror. But I'm going to turn the entire thing so I'm looking at this object pin in the mirror. And what I'm looking for is I want the reflection that I see, the image that I see of the mirror pin, and the reflection of the image that I see of the object pin to be in a straight line as I'm looking at them. And so I line it up, and now I'm going to place this third pin. This is called the eye pin, and I'm going to put it out from the paper a little bit in a straight line along with the ones that I see in the mirror. So as I'm looking at it, I got one eye closed, I'm aiming, and that looks like they're all pretty much in a straight line as I'm looking at the images. So now I'm going to turn it back straight. Now I'm going to take these things out of the way so that I can draw some lines on here. I'm going to move my mirror pin and I'm going to mark with a dot right exactly where I see that on the page. And I'm going to label it mirror. I'm actually going to label it mirror number 1 because we're going to do this twice. I'm going to take this one out and put a little dot right there. Label it object. I'm going to take this one out, put a dot there, and label it eye. This is the eye pin, number 1. All right? The next thing that I'm going to do here is to draw my rays. Now, I'm going to start by drawing my incident ray. That's from the object to the mirror. I'm going to use a blue pen and my trusty straight edge, and I'm going to draw a straight line from object to mirror. I'm going to use a green pen to draw the reflected ray from the mirror to my eye. And I will show you this with the camera here as soon as I'm done drawing what I need to draw. So now I have my reflected ray. Okay. And I'm going to actually label those two, incident and reflected. Now, I'm actually going to do that a second time. I'm going to put a second set of lines here on my paper. So the first thing I do is to put my mirror back exactly where it is, just perfectly lined up on that line. I'm going to put my object pin, make sure you can see it, yep, I'm going to put it back exactly in the same spot. So object pin is not moving. But now my mirror pin, I'm going to take and I'm going to move over to the left about 3 centimeters or so. And now I'm going to put my mirror pin if I can get it in a different spot and see how it's flush up against the mirror. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing, excuse me. I'm going to turn this so that I'm looking at my two images in the mirror, and I'm going to close one eye so I'm aiming, and I'm going to line those two pins up in the mirror. I'm going to take this third one and line it up. Let me see if I can move it back a little bit. And put that. Now when I'm looking at it, I'm going to move this camera just a little bit. When I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it like this. So what I see is I'm looking at the shaft of the pins. And you can see that they're all pretty well lined up. You really can only see one pin shaft. If I move to the left or right, they're not lined up anymore. But when I got down and I aimed, this is what I was looking at. Okay, and I put you back over here so I can draw the rest of my lines now. And we'll turn this guy back where it was. Now, just like before, I'm going to take off my mirror. I'm going to move my pins. And I'm going to mark where everything was. First thing I'm going to do, put a little dot right here and label it mirror number 2. Now I'm going to put a dot right here where my other pin was, and that's eye number 2. Now I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to use red, and I'm going to draw my incident ray, my second incident ray, just like this. And the directions will tell you to use orange, but I don't have my orange with me, so I'm going to draw my second reflected ray here in yellow, and it's going to go just like this. Now the next thing I'm going to do before I pick up the camera to show you, pardon me, from the bird's eye view, is to draw my normal line. Okay, remember the normal line is perpendicular to the surface. So I'm going to line up my protractor here. I'm going to make sure it's perfectly straight, or as straight as I can possibly get it. I'm going to make my normal line be a dashed line, just so that it stands out a little bit. I'm making it nice and long too so that I can use it with my protractor a little bit later. Now I'll do the same thing. Line up this edge, make sure it's perfectly at 90 degrees, and draw in my normal lines here. And you can label these as normal 1 and normal 2 as well, just to help you remember. Never hurts to label things. Alright, now the next thing that we need to do is to actually find the angles of our incident and reflections. So I'm going to move my cardboard out of the way. And we are going to, I'm going to flip this over so it's a little bit easier to read my protractor. And what we're looking for, here we go, is the angle between the normal line and the incident ray, normal line and the reflected ray. Now here's a little trick. If I put my protractor like this and I line it up this way, in order to find this angle, I have to subtract from 90. Okay, if I don't want to do that, I can turn my paper, turn my protractor. Okay, let's get that perfectly lined up. 90, right, perfectly straight. And now I can read this as 0, so I can read it starting from there. Now, the first question that you need to answer is going to be the angle of incidence for the first one. So we're looking at the angle of the blue line right here. That's the first incident ray, number 1. So go ahead and read that protractor. And that's going to be the answer to your first question. Make sure, please, that you write that down in your journal. The second thing that you're going to read, your angle of reflection. We're going to turn this paper around. Sorry about that camera work there. We're going to turn the paper. We are going to line everything up one more time. Get that perfectly lined up. Okay, this time you're looking at the angle of that green line. So go ahead. I know that that can be a little bit tricky. If you need to pause, go ahead and pause. But just to point out for you, this line right here underneath the 4, that's the 40 degrees, so you're going to count over from there. Okay. Now for number 2, again, the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. So we're going to line up the protractor one more time. That goes here. And you're looking at the angle for the red line right here. This is 0. We're going to read up that way. So look at the angle for red. Make sure that you write that down. Because that's going to go in your journal. You're also going to type that in or answer the question, with the video. We're going to line this one up. And you're looking again at the reflected angle. So here's 0 and the angle up to the yellow line right there. All right, now we're going to continue on a little bit with some more additional information. So let me put my trusty camera back down. I'm going to move the paper over so you can see it again. Now what we're going to do is I want to see what's called the image placement. Now we're not going to get into this quite yet in as much detail, but this is a really good introduction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 reflected rays and I'm going to extend those lines past the mirror. And if those 2 rays were to go beyond the back of the mirror, where would they end up is what I'm going to look for. So again, I've got my trusty straight edge, and I'm making these dotted lines also so they kind of stand out. And the second one, extend that one. And now I'm going to find the point where those 2 lines intersect. I'm going to mark that nice and dark. I'm going to label it image or image pin. Now I'm going to draw a perpendicular line between the object pin and the mirror line. Let's flip this over here. I'm going to line up my protractor so I can make sure that my line is perfectly perpendicular. And I'm going to get out my purple again. There's my line there. And now I'm going to do the same for my image pin. And so you can see I've got a line from my object to the mirror and then a line from the mirror to my image. Now I'm going to measure those 2 lines. So let me get out my regular ruler. I'm going to move the camera because I'm not going to tell you what the measurements are. You're going to read the ruler for yourself. Now this ruler can be, this measurement, can be in centimeters. That's totally fine. So you're looking from the 0, which is the placement of the object pin. Sorry, let me get that straight for you. Perfectly on that pin. So from the object pin to the mirror, go ahead and read that. Write that down in your journal. And then we're going to measure from the mirror. If I can get that set right. Surprisingly hard to do this one-handed. There we go. From the mirror here to the image here. And go ahead and write that down in your journal as well. Make sure that you take note of this or pause the video at some point. You're going to need to sketch this in your journal as analysis question number 3. Go ahead and answer the other 2 analysis questions as well.